And we are back on Capitol tonight. Poll after poll has shown that New Yorkers are evenly divided over hydrofracking. The push to allow the controversial natural gas drilling technique in the Marcellus Shale has sparked very passionate debate, but until recently, anti-fracking advocates were more visible and more vocal, helped by a bevy of high-profile musicians, actors, and artists. Recently, however, the pro-fracking crowd has stepped up their game. Yesterday, a group of landowners, farmers, and business leaders launched an ad campaign to promote safe and responsible drilling. My next guest is one individual who happens to be behind that effort. He is Mike Elmendorf, a regular here, the president of the Associated General Contractors of New York. Welcome back to Capitol tonight.
Thank you, Liz. Good to be back.
Okay, so this is it is a TV and a newspaper ad campaign.
Yes.
Are those all the components of this particular effort?
Well, it's an evolving process, and there may be more. I mean, we think it's very important to get the message out there to counter, as you said, what folks have been hearing in opposition to shale gas development, and to let New Yorkers hear from actual people that are going to be impacted by this, from farmers, from small business owners, from construction workers, from people in these areas that are so desperately in need of jobs and economic activity, which is what would be the result of shale gas development.
You brought this with you. I think we've got a mock-up of it. Let's see if we can pop it up on the screen. There we have it. It's a little bit small there. What's interesting here is the guy in the upper right-hand corner, whose name is Nick Basile. He's also in the ad, the TV ad. He is a biologist. He's a scientist of some sort? Is that correct? He works in Pennsylvania.
I think so, yeah.
And he talks about the safety of this and how desperate people are, of course, in the southern tier. I mean, obviously that's your message. Are you convinced, in fact, of the safety? I mean, just yesterday we spoke to a scientist who is not 180 degrees away from where you are, right? I mean, and believes that there's dueling science on this clearly.
Well, there's a couple of things. First one is you've got a process underway right now that the DEC has been engaged in for some time, a scientific process, a fact-based process, which is what I think these circumstances call for, and it's what the people of New York State deserve. That's what's happening, and I think everyone who's been following this, who is reasonable, can conclude that if DEC determines after this process that it can be done safely in New York, that it can be done safely. It will be done under the most rigorous standards in the country, by the way.
But the DEC is not infallible. I mean, the DEC can make mistakes. Certainly, you were in government.
Yeah, but the DEC is not alone in this. I mean, let's look at the record here. First and foremost, none other than Barack Obama, the President of the United States, who may have been accused of a great many things over the last 4 years, but being a shill for the oil and gas industry is not one of them, has said publicly that shale gas development, hydrofracking specifically, can be done safely, and that natural gas is essential to our energy economy.
I think you're speaking of the State of the Union address, right? He specifically mentioned it
on more than one occasion. He made comments just a few weeks ago, I believe, in Ohio to that effect. The EPA, Lisa Jackson, as EPA administrator, has said the same thing. The EPA has said the same thing. This is not the Bush administration we're talking about, where I'm sure the opponents would say, well, they're tight with the gas and the oil industry. This is the Obama administration, and it's been done safely for years elsewhere around the country.
Well,
if you go to Pennsylvania,
there are reports. I mean, okay, fine. Let's take Pennsylvania. I mean, you've seen a lot of. I don't want to get into gas land because I think that takes us into dangerous territory.
It's a story. It's fiction.
There's a response from the industry that is I won't say fictionalized, but similarly dealt with, right, with a woman who goes around and speaks, tries to inform herself about this process. Let's leave that aside. I mean, there have been accidents, there have been spills, there have been incidents, right? I mean,
it's
one incident happens and you can't take it back.
Okay, but if you use that same logic, maybe we shouldn't have gas stations in New York State, because you not that infrequently have incidents where you have a spill at a gas station or where you have a tank problem at a gas station. And there was one not far from here, near where I live, where I watched them with a new gas station have to dig the whole place up and put the whole thing back together again. That can lead to significant environmental problems. Should we not have gas stations? Factories can cause environmental problems. Should we not have factories? A bakery could cause an environmental problem. I mean, the hysteria here really is a little bit distressing.
Just quickly, let's get back to this for a second. How much is this campaign and how long is it going to be running?
It's going to go on for weeks. How much it is, I think, will depend as it rolls out what all the groups decide to do. But we at AGC are very committed to this. We think.
What's the initial? Is it 6 figures? Is it 5 figures?
Yeah, I don't know the all-in number offhand. We've all contributed. all the groups that are involved.
Contribute?
We've made a significant contribution here and elsewhere. This is not the only campaign that we are part of. We're doing things on our own. This is a huge issue, not just for the economy, but for our industry in particular. I mean, you've got double-digit unemployment in construction, and if you have responsible shale gas development, if the DEC's decision is that it can be done safely, and here's how we're going to do it in New York, you're going to have a lot more people going back to work in the construction field, whether they're building environmental infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, building infrastructure publicly, and then all the private development that happens because you have a growing, active, healthy, vibrant economy.
So Mike, you're convinced then, because some opponents would say, well, what you end up with is a lot of, for lack of a better word, mercenary type folks who move where the jobs are. You need drilling experts, and we don't necessarily have a lot of homegrown drilling experts here. So you bring in these fracking folks from Texas, or you bring them in from wherever, and they all stay there and they work 18 hours at a clip, and then they make a lot of money, and then they leave. So you're convinced that your members are actually going to make money. Do you have numbers on this?
They've gone to work in Pennsylvania. Some of our members have, because the jobs aren't in New York, and they've gone to work based on activities that are going on there with shale gas development, either directly or the indirect impacts, because there's a lot of indirect impacts. We already have construction firms and construction workers from New York who are working in Pennsylvania because of this. So yeah, they will go to work. I mean, sure, you're going to have people who may come in from the industry, but that happens with anything that you do. I mean, it's happening with global foundries, but there's a huge economic impact from that. It's undeniable. I mean, you look at Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has an unemployment rate that is substantially lower than New York or other states, and it is in large part because of shale gas development. I was with a member of Congress last week from Pennsylvania who thanked New York for the fact that we are still trying to figure out what to do here because they're benefiting. And you know, the unfortunate thing is that the world has changed around the energy and the energy economy and the market for gas, because the price is way off from where it was a while ago.
Well, I was just going to ask you that question. Right, so you have a glut of natural gas really now. Now, I know that the industry says, well, we don't expect that to last forever, and that's fine. But I mean, in the short term, why do you want to be going around and drilling for something that you're not even perhaps going to be able to sell at the price that you would hope to get for it?
Well, I think you will if the DEC greenlights this, if the DEC determines that it can be done safely. And I don't know anybody, certainly not our members, certainly not me, who want this to happen if it can't be done safely. And that's what we're all waiting to see from DEC. If they determine it can be done safely and they roll out the regulatory regime to do it, I think you will see activity. I don't think it's going to be the volume of activity that you might have seen a few years ago, but it is what it is.
Are you or anyone connected to you part of the members of the industry who are being briefed or getting inside info, what sort of the environmentalists or the anti-frackers allege is going on?
No, I saw the piece yesterday. No, I mean well,
it's mostly oil and gas. I mean, you guys are sort of the beneficiaries of it. You're not drilling.
Among many others. No, we've participated in the process to the extent that we have, like many other people, have submitted comments. Our members have submitted comments, and we've been, I think, very active as an industry association trying to get the word out and have some balance in sort of the public discourse here, that there are a great many people who believe this can be done safely and who believe that it is not only critical to our economy, particularly in a region of the state in the southern tier where the economy has struggled mightily, it's also important to our energy future, for energy independence, which makes sense on national security and economic grounds in a huge way.
What's your gut?
I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen probably on more of a limited basis than some might like to see, possibly both because how it's rolled out, but largely because of what we referenced before, that the market has changed. But that's not going to be a permanent condition.
Well, that's what the governor hopes,
I don't
right?
believe
or
it will
people
be.
who are supportive
hope. The price of commodities goes up and down. We should be able to do this in New York. For too long, we've been sitting on the sidelines. We've been watching the boom in Pennsylvania. We've been getting the scraps. I mean, you go down to Elmira, you know, you've got hotels that are busy, restaurants that are busy, airports that are busy as people come and go to go to work in Pennsylvania where the economic impact is. It ought to be here in New York too, and the time is now.
Well, of course, we're waiting. Right? We're awaiting word from the governor. Hopefully it will be soon. I would prefer that it does not come when I'm in Tampa or perhaps North Carolina for the conventions. But be that as it may, I'm sure you'll be back. Mike Elmendorf, thanks for being with me. I appreciate it. We'll be back on Capitol Tonight after this quick break. Stay with us.